Welcome to the Buck Stops, here the official audio show of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, Kirk Buckner, the Buck. I'm the owner, I'm the operator of NotInHallOfFame.com and the sister sites, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame and the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Check them out if you haven't already. Regular listeners to the show know that I have now hung my hat, at least for now, maybe another year, we'll see, in the beautiful island country of Barbados. I love this country. I love almost everything about it. Try getting some paperwork here done. It's not exactly the easiest thing, and my God, the potholes are out of control. But other than that, the people are great, the weather is great, the food is excellent. But we all know I'm a sports guy. Well, I can't play anything worth shit. We also know that. But I love watching sports. I love talking about sports. I love talking to athletes. I love just learning what makes them tick. And Barbados may not be known for a lot of their athletic achievements, but they do have them. This is a country rich in athletic tradition, like really every country in the world. Theirs is a little different than what I'm used to in Canada. Cricket, of course, is the biggest sport in this country, but there's so much else here. I had the chance to talk to two such athletes. The first is Harcourt Wason. Harcourt represented Barbados at the 4x400 in the Olympics. Yeah. Harcourt was one of the first Olympians to represent Barbados. This country is only 51 years old. So when he did that, he was only the first of... Actually, he was part of the second group of Olympians to represent Barbados. Pretty cool, right? So I talked to him about his experiences representing Barbados and just the 76 games in total. It was a pretty big deal for Canada. It was the first time we hosted the Olympics. And we got 0 medals. Well, we got silver, got bronze. How many gold did we get? None. So be it. I also had the chance to talk to Celia Collymore. Celia is a wonderful woman who I've dubbed her the fittest woman on Barbados. She says the fittest woman that I know. I'm going to go with the fittest woman on the whole island. And Celia, I think you should market yourself that way. And if you won't, I will. Celia is a great woman who played Division II basketball, and I got a chance to talk to her about the whole recruiting process and how Barbados is really an untapped resource that a lot of U.S. colleges could really look at for great athletes. Her and 3 other women they propelled Pace University, Division II college in New York, to their first and I believe only Final Four. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the great island of Barbados. Celia remains an elite athlete. And what she runs here is a company called Beijing Fusion. I've participated in that once. My wife is a regular participant in that. And she does sports of all kinds. Hence why she's the fittest woman on the island. So I talked to her about her experience at Pace and how she translated an athletic career into a permanent career back home in Barbados. So let's begin this by bringing in former Beijing Olympian, Harcourt Wason. Harcourt, how are you today, sir?
I'm good, Kirk. How about you?
No complaints. We live in Barbados. What are we going to complain about?
Exactly.
So,
and there's no rain. It hasn't been any rain for a little while, though.
No, there hasn't been. I imagine the farmers could use a little bit of that. It's been pretty dry overall.
We could do it. So.
Yeah, for
a little
sure.
hot, but it's all right.
Well, it was snowing back in Toronto, where I'm from, just yesterday.
Okay. Oh wow.
So
okay.
I think they've had enough of that. But I'm from Toronto, but the reason we're talking today is because of a trip you took to Montreal.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you obviously about the Olympics in 1976, but before that, how did you get into running? Was this something that was that your primary sport when you were a kid?
Well, Kirk, growing up in Barbados, cricket was something that every boy aspired to play. Every boy wanted to represent the West Indies team, and so did I. Wanted to represent the school team, then on to the Barbados team, and then to the West Indies team. Of course, that's true of all the boys in the Caribbean. But I would say that I was blessed with some other talent other than cricket. I wasn't a bad cricketer. I was blessed with pretty good all-round sportsman, soccer as you would call it, football, cricket, field hockey, and of course track and field. I represent my school from the time, and we have all age secondary schools here. So from the time I went to secondary school at age 10, I represented my school every year right through until I left school at 18. And not only in track events, but also in field events. So, that's how it started. It was not probably until my last 2 years or so in school that I then took to the 400 meters. I also ran the 100 and 200, but 400 meters was my primary event.
Okay. And so prior to the Olympics, what had been the biggest event that you competed in internationally?
Prior to the Olympics, I would have gone to the Carissa Games, which is a regional junior track and field meet. Mm-hmm. I've gone to Carissa in 1974 and 75. I went to the first ever junior CAC championships in 1974. I actually won an individual silver medal there. That was the inaugural games. And then in 1975, I also went to Hampton Games in Trinidad, and in 1976, the Southern Games also in Trinidad.
Now, at the 76 Games, you were part of the 4x400 team, and there was in the research that I did, there was only 16 countries that were represented. Am I correct in that? In that event?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So for Barbados to qualify, this wasn't a case where how can I put it? I mean, it wasn't sort of like sometimes when you see the Olympics and you have some people that are like, how did they even qualify? If there's only 16 countries, clearly you put together a really good team.
Yes, and a chance was made for us by our local federation. Mm-hmm. We had a good pool of athletes, 400-meter runners, and that's how we made the team. We did not run as a group together prior to the event. On the day, but a case, as I said, was put forward, and we were able to get a 4x100 meters team and a 4x400, and I was part of the 4x400 meters team, and I'm happy that we were not disgraced. We didn't make it to the finals, but at least we came away with a national record.
So how do you find out? Because you would have been, I think you told me before, you were 20 years old. So how do you and your teammates find out that you're going to the Olympics? Do you get a call from, I guess, the governing body in Barbados?
Well, we had the local federation, Athletics Federation. We had trials, and the trials would have been more than one occasion. We had mostly lots of time trials, and of course our local meets. So we were running and trying to get close to that individual qualifying time for pretty much the better part of the year until about I would say May, and I think by June we would have known then that this is the team and these are the ones who will be traveling.
Now, when you finally get there to Montreal, that was your first time in Canada, right?
Yes.
So you were telling me before when you were at the Olympic Village that it became a bit of a community with not just the Bajans, but with all the people of other Caribbean countries. Is there like a group of people that you bonded with more than anyone else other than the other Bajan athletes?
Well, other Caribbean athletes, yes, we bonded well. And we had a few guys who would have been on track scholarships in the U.S., so they would have known some of the U.S. athletes, so we were able to get to know some of them as well. Of course, you will have heard of the names coming out of the U.S. and Britain and such, so you look out for these, try to find out these people, seek them out. And the thing about it is, as a youngster and up-and-coming, aspiring to be a great athlete going forward, you speak to athletes, who are there already. You speak to coaches, so we were able to make friends with, acquaintances with a lot of athletes from different countries.
Now, you're one of 11 one of 11 athletes, rather, for the 76 Games. Now, that's got to be a very special feeling because you're only the third group of Bajans to represent Barbados. As we talked before, there had been Bajans in the Olympics before representing, I believe, what was it, the British West Indies?
Yes, the West Indies team.
Okay.
West Indies,
yeah, but it's got to be so much more special when you're flying that beautiful blue and yellow flag with the trident.
Yes, of course. again, growing up, you aspire to represent the country in a sport. Cricket was that one. But having gone to athletics and, you're able to represent the country, it's always a special feeling. Actually, even now I get that feeling when I'm watching an international meet and I'm seeing Barbados being represented and going well. I get that special feeling. I'm really elated at the fact that we are there, we're improving, we're doing well. But going back then, it was special that I'm one of 11 who were on this team, who had this special opportunity to go and represent the country. And you have remembered in the earlier conversation when I mentioned the flag raising ceremony in the village, that was special. So here, I think it's like 90 odd countries being represented, and little Barbados is there. Our flag is up among these countries. And of course, at the opening ceremony itself, that's one thing that will stay with me forever. There you are, 70,000 people in the stands, and you're there surfing around the track, and everyone is cheering and looking at you. So that was really a special feeling for myself and certainly for all of our teammates.
Was there anyone that in the stands you were trying to look for? Because I know the Queen was there.
Yeah, she was at the opening ceremony. No one in particular. Maybe some of the Barbadians in Montreal who were around, but you really could not locate where they were. So so it's just that little small group of Barbadians in the stands.
Mm-hmm. So now a week after that, now you're competing. Actually, no, I think you told me it was a week and a half after because it was near the end of the games. Because for those who watch a lot of Olympics, they'll know that track usually doesn't start the first week. It's usually dominating in the second week. And in our conversation before, you weren't up until I think you said the third last day.
Yes.
And
I think second or third last.
Second or third last day, yeah. So so you're getting back into the Olympic Stadium, competing there. How is the feeling different when you're competing as opposed to when you're walking through the stadium? Is it just you're just more focused and you're not necessarily like is the big crowd different, or you don't even notice it because you're just there for a purpose?
Well, you're not really noticing the crowd at that time. From the time you walk onto the track, yes, okay, you acknowledge that there are lots of people in the stands, but you go out there and you try to focus. Okay, this is you kind of zone out and zone out from what is happening around you and zone into what you are going to do. So my thing is, I want to get the baton in my hand, get it around as quickly and as safely as I can to pass it on to the next runner. So that was my mindset at the time. I just want to get the baton in my hand and go there and do absolutely the best that I can do.
And you were a third in your of the leg. You ran the third leg, right?
Yeah, second leg. I ran the second.
Oh, second leg. Okay, sorry about that. So doing the second leg for a relay runner is like the biggest nightmare. Just always like dropping the baton. I guess like in the handoff. Yeah, is that something you practice more than anything else?
No, but in the 4x4, that the cases of a drop baton in the 4x4 are very minimal. But it has happened. It does happen. But I think because it is not you can make an error and still catch it because it's 400 meters you have to run, as opposed to the 4x100 meters where everything has to be so precise. So the exchanges, it wasn't that critical. But you still want to make a smooth change so that you don't want to lose any time, at all. So you get out the runner's coming in, you're waiting, you make that exchange, and you start to go. So it like I said, it's not as critical as in the 4x100 meters relay where you make that one mistake and those few tenths of a second in trying to adjust, it causes you a medal or a place to the final or something like that.
Okay. And if I remember right, also too, you finished your team finished seventh in the 8-team heat. So,
seventh, yes.
Was that a goal to like? What was the main goal for the Beijing team coming in?
Well, the main goal was to finish, to qualify for the final. Mm-hmm. After that, then our goal would have been a national record, which we achieved.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Now, when you're in the Olympic Village, I mean, there's always like big stories that the media sort of pushes through the games. I wonder if it was as big for the athletes. Like the 76 Olympics will be known a lot for the gymnastics competition, the first ever Perfect 10 of Nadia Comaneci of Romania. Now, was that something that sort of went through the village? Like, was everyone talking about that? Like, what other athletes were people talking about amongst each other?
Of course, yes. The Nadia Comaneci, that was a big thing, and all the achievements in the gymnastics. Mm-hmm. But on the track, there was Alberto Monterena. There was Edwin Moses, who had perfected the 13 strides between each hurdle and the 400-meter hurdle. You know, these are big stories. Of course, from the Caribbean, Don Quarry from Jamaica and Hayes Crawford from Trinidad, who eventually won the 200 and 100 meters respectively. So those are the big names, and these guys were in college, so they're coming from college onto the Olympics, so they were coming with a reputation. So these were the big names. Those are big stories in the village. And I think from then, you started to see a real Caribbean dominance in the sprint, and which still exists today.
Mm-hmm. Who were you most excited to meet that you hadn't met before?
Probably, I would say Edwin Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say Edwin Moses. Because, you know, at that time, the hurdles was not a big event in Barbados. We did it, but it was not a big event. We were not going into the hurdles. But to see someone who was able to run 400 meters over 10 obstacles, and still to run a commanding time, you know, and the consistency of the 13 strides between the hurdles, that was phenomenal.
And if I remember correctly, because Edwin Moses was someone I first became familiar with in '84, just sort of put it in perspective, I was born in '72, so my memories of the '76 Olympics really aren't there. But I did watch a lot of the '84 Olympics, and watching Edwin Moses again win that event. And they really built him up as a legend. It was sort of nice to sort of see that. So I can just I can imagine that would have been a big memory for you. Montreal is a great city. Did you get a chance to really enjoy the city? Did you and your teammates sort of like go out a bit when it was time to relax?
Yes, we did do a few tours of the city, and then once the Beijing community hosted us for an outing. Oh, okay. So, we were able to get around and see a bit of it. Mind you, that once we got there, and our event was, so far to come, we still had to train. We had to make sure that we were able to produce our best. We kept that edge going for the time that we were there. So, yes, it was, we were able to get out and see a bit of the city.
Now, you're talking a bit about some of the people who were competing at the Olympics who were already in college. In our previous conversation, you'd mentioned that essentially this all helped to get you a scholarship. Yes,
my scholarship was strange. I was offered prior to that. I was offered a scholarship at Idaho University. That fell through. But then once I got to Montreal, there was a guy, Cuby Siobin, who was the manager of the Adelphi University track team. He was there in Montreal as part of the Guyanese team. Guyana did boycott as well, but he was there supporting as a delegate or something like that for Guyana. So anyhow, we met up and we were able to talk, and then he contacted Coach Ron Basil at Adelphi, and we had a conversation, and he invited me down to New York, Long Island, after the games. So I drove from Montreal to Long Island with QB, and we had a discussion, and there it was. I was offered a full scholarship at Adelphi University.
So you didn't fly back to Barbados first, or you just went right into school at Adelphi?
No, I went to Adelphi, did my paperwork, everything there, then came back to Barbados for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then flew back to New York for college.
Was there a welcoming from the people of Barbados when you got back from the Olympics?
Well, there was, for those who came straight back, For me, I was on my own, so
Okay.
no, I missed out on that.
And tell me more about your career at Adelphi.
Okay, so I went into in 1976, and of course with great expectations, and immediately I sustained an injury. It took a little while before we were able to figure out what it was, but it was a stress fracture in the right shin bone. It took a pretty long time to heal, so I practically missed the entire indoor season. I probably ran like 1 or 2 meets, and then I missed the rest of the indoor season. I started to come back towards the outdoor season. I think I rushed back too soon. So basically, I missed the entire first year. But after that, I was able to come back and went on to run indoor nationals, outdoor nationals. Was able to get on. Eventually then I went up from the 400 to the 800 meters. I went to nationals, the NCAA Division II nationals, and ran in the 800 meters as well as the 4x4 relay. We were able to go to indoor nationals, and we got to find out a place 6 overall in the 4x800 meters relay. I think that was in 1979. So it pretty much while it was over the top, it was pretty successful.
And the 1980 Olympics, did Barbados boycott that?
Yes, you boycotted in 1980.
Okay, so was that something that you could have possibly have gone to in Moscow?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. Yeah, because we hadn't really talked about that, moving forward. I just assumed that you would obviously still be competing then, because you would have only been 24 at that time.
Yes. So we didn't go on. For those who, and I think we were disappointed, but we fell in line with what the federation decided to do. So but so then, but then by 1984, of course, I'm now the running is behind me. I'm into coaching and teaching and stuff. So I had stopped competing. Once I returned to Barbados.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to ask you. If you transitioned into coaching for a bit afterwards, and you just answered that.
I did. Yeah.
The same discipline for middle distance running or shorter distance running.
Actually, my coaching qualification is in sprints and hurdles.
Okay.
But once you're in the school system in Barbados and then subsequently in the Cayman Islands, you end up coaching multiple events. So I've dabbled a bit in the field events, the throws, the jumps, the hurdles, middle distance, long distance. Can pretty much prepare a program for all these events. But my strength really would be sprints and hurdles.
And we were also talking how disappointed we both were that the Olympics has been postponed up until 2021. Because you already booked your holiday.
Yeah.
To watch it.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Well, that just means you'll have to watch it. You'll have to watch it over here with me on 2021.
Yes. Of course.
Yeah, we'll break out a few Banks beer.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really enjoyed talking with that. It's Montreal. The Montreal Olympics is always something that a lot of Canadians sort of look at as, in a way, because that was the first time we ever hosted the Olympics, and some things went really well for us, some things did not. Not sure if you're aware, Canada became the first country to ever host the Olympics and not get a gold medal.
Yes. I remember that. Correct.
Yeah, so that's something, and we did it twice. In Calgary, in the Calgary Olympics, we hosted the winter ones, and we didn't get anything on that either.
The winter games, right?
Yeah.
Actually, in 2015, I went to Toronto for the Pan American Games.
Oh wow!
Which is the games for the Western Hemisphere. So I was there as a spectator, and it went very well. And actually, it was bandied about that perhaps Toronto can bid for one of the future games. I think it's probably 24 or 28. But I don't think that they decided to bid for it. But, again, that was a good showing by Canada in 2015.
Well, it comes to a lot of other things. The Canadian government put in a lot of funding towards the athletes, and I don't have to tell you that how important that is when you've got the backing of your government to sort of help with that.
Of course. Of course, the budget for the Olympic Games is, it's huge. So, you have to have that full backing of your government in order to make the bid, and then after receiving the bid, to make sure that it is a successful event.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I've loved this, and hopefully we can do this again another time.
Sure, not a problem, Kurt. Anytime.
All right, thanks so much. We go from one athlete to another. Let's bring in Celia. Celia, thanks so much for coming on the show. First thing I have to ask is, how does a basketball player playing high school ball in Barbados wind up in New York State playing Division II ball?
The general admissions guy at Pace University, he came to Barbados actually looking for boys to play basketball. And someone told him about a number of girls on the island that play pretty well. And they told him about us. And one day we had practice down Folkestone. And I think you know where Folkestone is. Mm-hmm. We had practice down there. And the guy came down there. He introduced himself. He told us why he was on the island. And he wanted to get to know a bit more about us. So we shared some information. He liked what he heard, and he said, I'll go back to Pace University, mention this to Carrie Seymour, who is still the women's basketball coach at Pace. And once she got the good news, that's where the process started. She flew down in 1996. Mm-hmm. She flew down in 1996 and watched us, because at that point, too, we were playing for Barbados national team. So I went from a junior player to a senior player as well. And at that time, we were going to Trinidad. So she came down and she watched some of our games locally. And then she also flew to Trinidad to see us play. And there were...
I was going to say, I'm glad you said us, because I learned here, it wasn't just you. There was like 4 of you on this team that we're going to talk about.
Yes, and I was third in line. So, and 3 of us out of the 4 actually went to the same high school, which is Corrigan Parish School, very close to you, above from you in Haywood.
Okay.
Corrigan Parish School. So once she came, Sherry Holder was the first person that came to go, and it was easy for her because she was American. So Sherry went down to Pace University in 1997, January, redshirted for that semester, fully started then in 1997, September, and during that time, Coach then would have recruited another lady, Wanda Maynard Morris, and then I came right behind her in 1998. So I did my time at Pace from 1998 to 2001, because I transferred from Barbados Community College, so I was able to transfer credit. So I only got 3 years at Pace University, but they were the best 3 years of my life, and I wish I had a 4th, because if I did, I am sure I would have made that 1,000 points, in my career, but, I was cut short 1 year.
Yeah, because I'm looking at, because they're on the Pace University or Pace U Athletics website, they did a retrospective of, I guess, the 20-year anniversary, or I guess the 19-year anniversary of your Final Four appearance. 20 years
is next year.
Okay. Yeah, so it's got the entire roster here. 4 of you from Barbados, and one lady from Helsinki?
Yes, Maria, yep. Yes, Coach was kind of international. It wasn't just American players. She had players from the Caribbean, from Europe, so that was actually pretty cool. So we definitely had an international presence, especially my time at Pace.
But I think it's safe to say, without the Bajans, this team's not going to the Final Four. From what I'm reading here, it doesn't take a genius for me to figure this out. It's this article here is talking about the defensive abilities of Wanda Maynard Morris, the center. You as a forward, yep. I guess you were a small forward?
Small forward, yes. Okay. Small forward shooting guard.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we're the same height, so I don't think that you would have been a power forward. And I'm not a tall guy.
You never know, Kurt.
Well,
You never know, Kurt. You never know. You just never know.
Nice. And you second team all conference.
Yes. And our senior year, we won the regional championship. So, I mean, I can't even tell you, Kurt, those were the best years won, and I really fought hard. And it was really my senior year. I was the co-captain, so we really just wanted to win. And our final year, we won to Bentley College, who was at that point 31-0. And our final game of their career and our career, it was Bentley's going to win. They're 31-0 for the conference. They're going to beat Pace. And we just kind of psyched ourselves up and say, look, let's just go hard. And Kurt, unfortunately, they lost that game. They became 31-1.
Uh-oh.
The Bajans really shut them down. And
Nice.
Their very best shooter, Kurt, she had 0 points. Because guess who shut her down?
I'm going to guess you, because I've also read you were actually featured, I found you in the New York Times, and it talks about your defense.
There you go. They used to call me the Cat. I'm not sure why Jeff Harder called me the Cat, but he used to call me the Cat.
The Cap?
That's the Cat, C-A-T. So that power is
Oh, the
on
Cat.
the court. The Cat.
Okay.
Yes. So that, I don't know. I love offense, but defense, Coach would always say defense wins games. Defense. Once you shut those teams down, you focus on executing offensively. And that was really my role, those shooters on the team to stop them, make it harder for them to score.
So after you graduated, what did you look to do athletically in New York, or did you stay in New York before you came back to Barbados?
I did stay in New York. I had the opportunity to play in Europe after graduation in 2001. But 2001, we traveled to Dominican Republic, so with Barbados, and unfortunately that tournament I blew my knee out, ACL, MCL, cartilage.
Oh.
So my basket career came to a complete halt.
Did you ever go back to it,
I
or?
remember there was No, there were times where coach would say, there's a possibility that you could, play for the New York Liberty if you were taller, if you were faster, but you would have to play point guard. And I know that you weren't comfortable with being a point guard, right? So there were a lot of hope, but blew my knee completely out. And that was it for me. So I really just focused on getting the master's and going into the workforce.
And when did you come back to Barbados?
That's what it became. I came back to Barbados this year, October 26th, will be 9 years I've been back in Barbados. I worked after Pace, I worked at Pace as a resident director, where I supervised the staff of 6 and had 200 students in our residence hall. And so I did that for 4 years, got my master's during that time. And once I was done there, I worked at Bank of New York Mellon in human resources for about 6 years. Economy tanked. They weren't renewing visas. I was on an H-1B visa. So then I had to come back home. And that's where the life Beijing Fusion really was born in Barbados in 2011.
All right, so tell everyone what Beijing Fusion is. And I know that I've participated in one of those events. I was the best archer, but I didn't get the award. I was robbed. But I just want to point that out.
It's true. I'm sorry. It's tough to say that. I feel like your wife, kind of like outpaced you in archery, though. But you did well.
She always does better than me in everything.
You did really well.
She does better than me in everything.
Yes. No. Don't say that. I don't believe that. But if you say that, I'm not going to fight it either. So Beijing Fusion, the idea actually started in New York, but the brand became really known in Barbados. So while I was still living in New York, months before I returned, one of my friends would have said to me, my fitness instructor just started a fitness movement, and she's playing a lot of Caribbean music. I think you should come and experience it. And how she's going to execute it is she's going to plan a flash mob in 14th Street.
And I was like, me, flash mob? Not too sure. He was like, man, you only live once, you're moving back to Barbados, let's just do it. So I said, okay. And I did the flash mob. I had a really good time. And she then invited me to one of her fitness classes. At that point, she was at New York Sports Club. And I went into the class, and I'm looking around, and she's playing all of this soca music, playing our Beijing artists. And it was very refreshing to see that people were taking in our culture through music and getting fit and feeling healthy about it. And I just looked at her and I said, I would love to bring you to Barbados. Remind you, Kurt, I never worked in Barbados. My career, my working career was in New York, but I felt so passionate about it and strong about it that I needed to do something about it. Yes, you're experiencing our culture through music in New York, but you have to come to Barbados to truly experience who we are as a people. And you never know, you might get to meet some of those same artists that you're playing their music. And she got really excited. I made her no promises, but I said, this is what I would like to do when I move back to Barbados. And we stayed in contact, weeks on end, even when I moved back to Barbados. And the idea came about where I sat down one day at work and said, if I'm going to do a project, what would it be? And I said, I'm Beijing and I'm fusing cultures, Beijing Fusion. And that's how it came about. Came back to Barbados, got the ground running, spoke to a couple of people about the brand and what I'm looking to do. And months later in 2012, June 2012 and August 2012, they came to Barbados. The whole fitness movement through this young woman, they came to Barbados. And that's really where the brand started. And like I would say to people, I broke ground in Barbados with Beijing Fusion. Having never worked here, didn't really have a lot of relationships, but I was committed to what I was doing, and I invested in myself.
And what are the sports that you have people do? Because it's really everything.
Yes, so Beijing Fusion is a fitness lifestyle service where we package experiences for locals and visitors alike. So on any given month, you can experience mountain biking, hiking, caving, paintball, paddleboard, horseback riding, kayaking, golfing, archery, you name it. It's all about trying something new and doing something different on the island. And we're always looking for something new to do as well, so that every year there's something different that you get to experience on the island. And I can say to you, a lot of these events too were very new to me. And what really excites me is exposing people to these new and different things and just catching their responses, how they feel about what they've experienced and what they've learned as well, and an opportunity to explore different parts of Barbados. And that's very fun and refreshing to me, that my brand can add value to people who live here, but not necessarily think about exploring Barbados differently.
And your work in doing this, it got you. I read that it got you noticed from the Ministry of Health. You were part of a task force. Yes, I was on the Ministry of Health task force from 2003 to 2008. So once the new government went in, they then chose a new group of persons to be on the task force, and that was a great experience. It never beats connecting with new people, people within the industry, being able to share ideas that help to affect the ministry in terms of creating new programs or new initiatives or doing something fun, throughout the island as well. So that was a really good experience, and we still are connected in that way because I'm in the business. So there's always that relationship that has still stayed strong, having worked for the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And you're still connected with PACE. I saw that they showed up here in 2017, and you were a big part of that for a little mini tournament. You really did your research. Yes, and that was not my first time interviewing someone, Celia. I know, I'm just joking. So that was one of my proudest moments, to know that I left PACE. I was an athlete under Carrie Seymour, now a business owner, and had the opportunity to really work with her to execute, games here, being able to do sessions for the youth, So that was a proud moment. And she also expressed, her gratitude and my willingness to support PACE, even though, my career is over, but being able to help PACE and make sure that the experiences here are seamless. And we're still connected, and obviously looking to get new talent to PACE
and working with coaches to really help to develop talent and prepare them for life at the university.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so you're pretty much now the pipeline for talent.
Yes, that's what I'm working on. And that's something, too, that I want my brand to do. But there's still areas of my business that I need to buckle down on and secure before I can truly commit to saying, you know what, let me be a sport agent, or even let me start my own basketball team. Those are dreams that I have for my brand as well. So once I can cross T's and dot I's in certain elements of my business, then I definitely want to commit to adding more value to basketball, because basketball changed my life. And I know that it can change other youth, boys and girls, on the island. We do have different groups, different organizations here in Barbados, but I also want Beijing Fusion to add value to sport from a basketball perspective.
How are the basketball facilities on the island?
Well, we have the gymnasium, Sir Garfield Sober's gymnasium, which is said to be the gymnasium for all sports. But as you know, all sports cannot be housed there. So there's some sports that obviously have their own spaces, but the gymnasium, I would say, is the key space for basketball. And then they have the YMCA, which is obviously now under construction, so not being able to use. And a couple of years ago, when they were updating the gymnasium, they were able to use down by Kensington Oval for a couple of weeks. I can't remember the name of one of the bonds. But we don't necessarily have a home for basketball, and we don't have a home for most sports, and that's the hope that the government can really support the federations and assisting them with finding their own home, creating their own homes.
There's just Barbados is a very fit country, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And there just seems to be a great talent pool. Is it hard to get? I guess this is more before, I guess on the male perspective, or maybe the females too. I don't know. Because cricket obviously is the biggest sport in this country. Is there has basketball grown here in the last 20 years?
No, not since we played for Barbados, not since we won the regional championship. It really has not grown. I would say after we left in 1998 up until 2000, I would say up to 2004, 2005, there was some progress, but I feel like we are in the decline, and definitely more work needs to be done, and having the right people, whether it's from the administrative standpoint, and also encouraging the parents and the youth to become a little bit more committed to the sport. And, policies that need to be created from a governmental standpoint to be able to support sport, not only basketball, but majority of the sports in Barbados. But yes, I can say to you, the sport has definitely been in a decline.
Okay, that's too bad. So with the government here, what is their big focus? What are they investing in? Olympic sports, track, or football?
I honestly cannot say precisely which sport, but I can say, like you said, cricket is the main sport that everybody focuses on. So the Barbados Cricket Association, the Barbados Football Association, volleyball, they seem to be doing a little bit better than most of the other sports. But we have a lot of non-traditional sports that are doing well and can do well, but they're not getting the exposure and the publicity like they should. Right? So I really think whoever is in the Ministry of Sport, they really need to sit back down really and focus on all the sports and come up with a game plan as how they're going to grow sports and grow talent on the island, but making sure that they have the right people, the right administration, the right coaches, the right support system, and bringing awareness and education to families all throughout Barbados, and making it easier for children in all communities to have access to the sport, but also have the supplies and the tools that they need to grow in the sport.
So I'm going to close off with one question. So when the team from Pace came in 2017 and you saw the other one who was wearing number 33, your number, did you sort of give her evil eyes and say, "That's my number"? How dare you?
No, not really.
Not really?
I wish they had retired 33. You know, I really wish they had retired 33, or I wish I had 33 in my hand right now. But you know what? At the end of the day, I did really well in 33, and I'm glad to see another young talent wearing the number and doing her best at the game. So no hard feelings. No hard feelings at all.
So if I look back at the Nation News, I won't find sort of like some mysterious injury to someone wearing number 33?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Nice. We'll see.
And one thing that I didn't mention to you, and I'm not sure if you're aware, right now, usually the first semester at the University of the West Indies, I actually work now for the Academy of Sport.
No, I didn't know that.
This is my fourth year. Yeah, this is my fourth year teaching as a part-time lecturer at the Academy of Sport at the University of the West Indies. So using my knowledge, my background in sport, and as a business person with a sport-inspired business to add value to our upcoming talent who are either going to be administrators in sport, who are either going to have their own sporting companies, who are either going to be successful athletes, or who are looking to go overseas and really spread their wings. So I'm excited about this opportunity, you know, to add from an academic standpoint in sport here in Barbados.
Awesome. And that's fantastic. I'm so glad that we had the chance to talk. I like this sport in Barbados, my little combination, my 1-2 combination here. I'm going to learn a lot more. I'm going to learn cricket before I leave this island. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Awesome. And again, you know, I can connect you with a couple of people. You know, of course, I don't know who you've had conversation with to this point, but, you know, I can connect a couple of people with you.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Celia, and we're so happy to have had you on. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe, everyone, and look for new content regularly from us at nothalloffame.com.